band is down here, and I just keep forgetting to turn it off. When I made a statement earlier that I had no memory of what he was talking about, I meant that literally. In 1998, I had a massive stroke. Let me back up a little bit. In 1995, I was 34 years old, and I had open heart surgery to remove to replace the aortic valve in my heart because it was leaking 75% of the blood back into my heart. And it caused my heart to be so enlarged that they thought it was going to burst. In fact, they didn't want me to go home when they discovered how big it had gotten. But God had plans. But due to the metal heart valve, I had to be on blood thinners. So in 1998, when I had the stroke, I don't know if you knew, some of you might know this, most of you probably don't. When a person has a stroke, what kills them is the brain swelling. The brain swells, and when it hits the skull, it has no place to go, and it crushes it, and it kills the person. The brain dies. Well, because I had that metal heart valve, they couldn't do what they normally did. Surgeons remove a big chunk of your skull so that your brain has room to swell and go back down without the skull being in the way. They couldn't do that because of my heart valve and blood thinners. If they'd done that, I would have bled to death. So there was only one other thing they could do. It was a medicine that worked some of the time, but they didn't have that medicine. All they could do was use saline. The doctor was a friend of my mom and dad, and he went out to my parents and said, "Your son's going to die." And Mom looked at him and said, "Can anything be done?" He just shook his head and said, "Pray." As far as I know, I'm here. But when I came to, my main fear in life was losing my left hand. That stroke took 1/3 of the right side of my brain. My body didn't know I had a left side. My brain didn't know I had a left side of the body. It was totally dead on this side of the body, and nothing. I couldn't move a finger. I couldn't move an arm. I remember laying there in the bed, and I was raised I'm a preacher's kid. My dad loved to work. You probably heard Glenn talk about my dad more than once. But I was raised from the time I was old enough to talk, hearing scripture. It was second nature to me. And but that day, when I gained consciousness, the doctors told my folks that I would be a vegetable. He said, "He won't be able to talk, he won't be able to walk, he won't be able to do anything. He'll be a vegetable if he does survive. He won't know who you are." But I woke up, when I came to consciousness, all I could think of was one scripture. And that's where Martha came to Jesus and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would have lived." And Jesus said, "If a man believed in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live." I remember I laid there and said, "Lord, I believe. Please let me live." I think he did. But for a long time, I was bitter. God, why did you abandon me? That's what I felt like. And I know maybe most of you have been lucky enough not to go through a lot. But when you go through a lot, there comes a time when you feel like God doesn't love you and he abandoned you. He didn't. Amen. A couple of years after the stroke, I had a vision of the day I had a stroke. The stroke. I worked in the day program as a group therapist at the time I had the stroke. I worked with the mentally ill, and every morning they would have a group meeting, and it was time for the group meeting, and they hollered for me to come out of my office. And in the vision, I'm standing off to the right side of my office door, right at the edge of the room where they had the meeting. And I came walking out, and I remember I grabbed my arm like that because it felt like I had two left arms. And terror struck my heart because the one thing I feared in my life was losing my left hand. There was no greater fear to me. Nothing I could imagine worse than losing my left hand. Nothing I could imagine worse. But they had enough training to know that something was wrong. So they rushed me to a chair and called the leader of the program, who was a nurse, to come look at me. And she came in and hollered for the secretary to call 911 because I'd had a stroke. Well, while they were gathered around me, in the vision, I saw this tall black figure walking towards me, reaching its arm out to me. And I knew it was death reaching for me. But before he could touch me, Jesus appeared and stood between death and me and would not let that thing come near me. That's why I'm alive. God had a plan. It's hard to understand sometimes why God does things the way he does. But I had trouble trusting God for years after that. Lord, because for one thing, I had to relearn part of the alphabet. I even forgot that. I lost huge chunks of memory that I still, people will tell me something that happened, like Lynn was talking earlier, I have no memory of that. Absolutely none, thank the Lord. Yeah, exactly. But
some stories we had on that trip.
So often someone will say, you remember, and they'll start telling me about something from my childhood or in my life, and it's like, I did that? No. Yeah, you did. No. God's merciful, I guess. Yeah. I was a mess. Still am. But,
yeah, you are. But it's all right.
That's enough from the peanut gallery over there. But I want to share a song that I wrote this year. The biggest thing for me was, God, why did you take away what I love most? And that was music. I lost every song. Up until the stroke, I could hold a concert without any prior preparation. I had maybe 100 songs stuffed in my head. Music, everything. You could ask Glenn. I mean, every song I'd written, I knew backwards and forwards and upside down. Well, I don't know about upside down, but anyhow, I knew, and they were all gone. Every last one of them gone. I couldn't carry a tune. In fact, I could not sing. I could not keep a rhythm. I could not keep tempo. I think Marilyn remembers last time I tried holding a concert, I had a horrible time with it. But I was trying. God's brought me a long way, and I thank Him for it. Since the stroke, I've earned my PhD, and I got a second bachelor's degree from Catholic University. Graduated magna cum laude in spite of the dating marriage. So don't ever say you can't. Don't ever say God doesn't care. But this is a song God gave me this just a few months ago. It took several weeks before I could sing it without crying. Because the hardest thing for me for years was trusting God. I would read Psalm 37, verses 3, 4, and 5, where it says, trust in the Lord and do good, and so shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord, trust also in Him, and He'll bring it to pass. I would read those verses and cry. And I'd say, God, I can't trust you. I was honest with God. But one day it hit me, sometimes trust is a choice. We choose, in spite of our circumstances, to say, God, I'm going to trust you. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know about tomorrow. It seems like everything is falling through in my life, but God, you've got a plan.
Amen.
So this is a song God gave us a few months ago. Though the road I walk seems silent, though all I love be gone, though the world around me crumbles and heartbreak steals my song, in the midst of all my trouble, Lord, I choose to turn to you. I choose to hold you near me, knowing still you bring me through. And I choose to trust you, I choose to hold your hand. The grief has left me blinded, your strength will help me stand. I choose to love you, I choose to run to you. Though it seems right now you're silent, I choose to trust in you. Though darkness all surrounds me, though all my dreams be gone, still your light of truth comes to me, saying, hold on to my love. Though my heart still cries in the silence, I stand by grace alone. Then in the night comes a twilight, the hope of your coming dawn. And I choose to trust you, I choose to hold your hand. The grief has left me blinded, your strength will help me stand. I choose to love you, I choose to run to you. Though it seems right now you're silent, I choose to trust in you. I choose to trust you, I choose to hold your hand. The grief has left me blinded, your strength will help me stand. I choose to love you, I choose to run to you. Though it seems right now you're silent, I choose to trust in you. One of the things that happened to me when I was writing this song, God spoke to me and said, Rick, I died for you. There's no greater love than the love I've shown to you. How can you not trust me? I love you more than you can imagine. How can you not trust me? And I realized, God, forgive me. Forgive me for not trusting you. There's no love. If you love somebody, you want what's best for them. You want them to be happy. And I realized God wants me to be happy. I know I've lost a lot, but just the same, God loves me and He has a purpose. And somehow or other, things will turn out for the good. I haven't gotten it all back yet, but God's brought me a long way. And I hear your voice so soft, saying, child, I died for you. There's no love that is greater. The answer's so near to you. Don't you know that? I chose to love you, though you rejected me. I made the choice to save you, to draw you near to me. I chose to bless you, though I promise you don't see. Hold on a little longer, put your trust in me. I chose to love you, though you rejected me. I made the choice to save you, to draw you near to me. I chose to bless you, though I promise you don't see. Hold on a little longer, put your trust in me. Hold on a little longer, put your trust in me. I chose to love you, though you rejected me. I made the choice to save you, to draw you near to me. I chose to bless you, though I promise you don't see. Hold on a little longer, put your trust in me. Hold on a little longer, put your trust in me. So many years ago, I can't begin to tell you when it was, but years ago I went with my dad to the General Assembly. I went with Mom and Dad. Comes every 2 years, and that's where all the ministers get together and walk the hallways when you're supposed to be in church. But